Right now, what separates winners from losers is creating structures that are built on durability.
We actually moved from a seed-based SaaS model to what I'm going to call kind of like a value-based approach. We'd actually almost 10x our contract value.
We are seeing a lot of the automation of jobs.
How much of the labor budget can AI eat into? So I'm going to put it at 15 to 25% of knowledge worker labor costs within 3 years of well-run enterprises.
Welcome to the 7th edition of 1752 VC Lightning Round pitch competition. We kick off our first event of 2026 with a bang. We brought over some respected panel of judges to discuss what's hype and what's actual structural changes propelled by AI, followed by 4 amazing startups that were selected from a very competitive application pool. They represented the top 1% of all applicants leveraging AI to build real solutions to real problems. And as always, the winner of the Lightning Round pitch competition goes straight into the final round of due diligence with us to receive a $100,000 check and join our Accelerate program. This event wouldn't have been made possible without our amazing partners and sponsors. Shout out to Ramp, Stubbs Law Firm, and Innovent Capital Group for all its amazing support provided not only to our portfolio companies, but all of the startups in our ecosystem, including the ones pitching tonight at the Lightning Round pitch competition. All right, it's time. I pass it on to my colleagues, Mohammed and Justin. Take it away.
I would like to invite all the judges to introduce themselves, starting with myself. My name is Mohammed Shabab Anwar. I am one of the co-hosts of the event, along with Justin Smith-Hoops. I would like to invite Amy to introduce herself and kick this forward.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Amy Harmon. I'm an investor with Innovent Capital Group. We are a single family office underneath serial entrepreneur Brett Markinson. We just opened Fund 2, and our fund currently focuses on deploying funds towards industry agnostic vertical AI disruption. We are internally entrepreneurs, CTOs, builders, and a cohort of other types of expertise. Our principal loves founders, loves people who are innovating, and we are just looking for really smart people solving really real problems with excellent infrastructure. So I'm excited to be here and excited to meet all of the finalists.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here and always love to learn from other smart people, see the problems they're solving. Based out of Boston, the CIO for an RIA, a group flagship Harbor Advisors, are about a $4 million shop. I also operate a private wealth management practice and work with a lot of founders and startups. Again, looking to be here and hear some exciting ideas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pearl Collings. Mohammed, thank you so much for including me. Definitely excited to engage with all the founders. I'm a B2B tech CEO specializing in health tech, data tech, and MarTech.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Very excited. I'm also from Boston, or from Brookline more specifically. I've played many roles. I'm a technologist at heart, computer scientist, minored in AI many eons ago. And cryptography, but I've played CIO, CTO, CDO roles in wealth management, asset management, and technology. Been part of several startups, some that did well, some that didn't. And I'm really excited to be here to see what the frontier of the use of technology is all about.
Thank you so much, the judges, for introducing themselves. The event is divided into 2 parts, starting with panel discussion, followed by our pitch competition. And by the end, we're going to introduce the finalists. This section will have a few questions for each judge. With the first question that we have is around SaaS AI landscape, which is shifting. What kind of execution separates winners from the losers?
Right now, what separates winners from losers is creating structures that are built on durability. So forget moat and forget sort of the pre-data access era. And we're looking at things that can scale as those models scale. So it's really about durability of the structure that you are building, that you own the basis of those models so that you can scale up and really own the workflows so that you are able to go extremely, extremely deep. We're not in the breadth era anymore. We're looking at being about every single user that you have that comes into your ecosystem makes that product that much better in a reinforcing system, and that you own that workflow. So just because everybody right now is capable of, vibe coding, we're looking for those really, really intelligent people who are layering and layering and layering and owning and really working with that data to deliver like an extreme and quick and reliable, trustworthy return on investment, actionable results from your product. So if you're able to create and own that infrastructure and show us how you've built it, that's definitely a way right out the gate that we can separate the AI wrappers and the winners from the losers. So I think that's one thing. And like I said, our team's starting to refer to that as durability in the age of AI. And then in terms of like, what are some of those success metrics? We think right now, obviously, you can launch a lot more quickly, and therefore you can validate customer action a lot more quickly. We're moving away from long enterprise sales. You're able to get those wait lists up, and then you're able to take action on those wait lists. So we're looking at quick turnaround to customers. And then from those customers, we're looking at, are they using? How much are they using? How pleased are they? Are they with that experience? How trustworthy are those results? And are they coming back for more? And we think that you can get to those types of results much more quickly these days to really prove out that you have something that's going to stand the test of time.
Companies I think that are going to survive are the ones that are sitting on proprietary data and workflow contexts that can't easily be replicated. So vibe coding, or I think it's called now agentic engineering, it can rebuild a UI in a weekend, but it can't replicate the domain-specific logic, compliance guardrails, and institutional knowledge that is really going to differentiate a well-built vertical product. I think the winners are going to be companies that become the system of record, the ones that have to integrate with and not replace. So if your product is just a thin wrapper on commodity features, yeah, you're going to be vulnerable. But if you are building deep workflow integration and your customers' data lives in your system, then you're actually more defensible, I believe, than ever, because agents need structured governed data to operate.
I have a follow-up for anybody interested in answering. How can we look towards in finding the right startup that can blow up in the age of huge returns and still have some of that defensibility that that we're shifting towards?
I think it's about getting smart with your business model, right? When you're looking at, instead of the previous way that we were charging and, seat-based and going on those sort of smaller metrics, right now you can learn what your users want and need and how to get sticky very quickly by offering things that are in smaller bite-sized ways. You don't have to sell into those big enterprise networks in order to prove that you are the winner. So long as you can delight that customer, you can sell to someone who works at the company instead of who is the person who's going to buy it for the company, right? So you're able to learn what those people want and need from outside of the system, and in a smaller, more bite-sized fashion, get to that same place a little bit more quickly. So I think that there's like a workaround to some of those siloed avenues that you're speaking of by going like kind of direct to certain customers in a quicker, more actionable way by being nimble with your business model.
I was thinking your question as a vertical versus horizontal approach. From an AI perspective, at this stage of AI's maturation, vertical has a significant edge for early stage companies. Because vertical players can build domain-specific training data, compliance framework, and workflow integrations that horizontal tools can't really match out of the box. A horizontal tool could approximate that, but it can't really match the depth without significant customization. Now, that said, the best horizontal plays still win if they can nail distribution and platform effects, like Slack, Notion, Figma, all started as horizontal and then one through ecosystem lock-in.
I have a question from Eric, and I wanted to ask you about the recent IPO slowdown and the space of companies being taken private again, especially for startups looking for getting acquired or going public. How does all of this affect LP decisions? How does that affect private markets in general, in a broader sense?
Interesting. Probably again, obviously there's costs going public, and every CEO you talk to probably dreads that, every 3 month check-in. I think if you truly ask most people, having a private offering has a lot of advantages to it. The end of the day, I think you find the right partner, from a PE VC standpoint. If they can provide the capital you need to grow and without those extra headaches, I do think there is a lot of appeal there. And where you also see more dollars that need to be allocated to good ideas, I'm not surprised that we see a lot of forecasts for this being a record year for IPOs. Think, well, that'll be interesting. Might be getting a little ahead of ourselves. And again, just going back, you put yourself in the founder's shoes. What's the best avenue? If you can get the growth, the capital that you need, while minimizing some of the headaches, I think that is a much more attractive trade-off for a lot of folks.
Rod, well, as our resident AI expert, we're curious to hear your thoughts. So we've seen a lot of AI exposure, some especially in enterprise. I don't know if everybody's heard of shadow AI, where some employees are using it unauthorized, opening up some potential data leaks or some potential issues in enterprise. What are some of the risks associated with this unauthorized this unauthorized usage, and how can startups start to identify white space in there and move into that and take over?
Shadow, fill in the blank has always been an issue, right? Fill in shadow IT, shadow whatever you want. Now it's shadow AI. Definitely, it's an issue. Employees are using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, their favorite thing, feeding in, violating policies, company policies by feeding proprietary data sometimes and customer records and code, and that's on them. If they want to put themselves in that risky position, their job is at risk. Now, the temptation of becoming so much more efficient than your competition is always there, whether it's some legacy IT and now with AI. So the opportunity, I think, for companies is to have a safe alternative for your workforce. The governed, compliant, auditable version has to really work. And the challenge is speed. If your governed solution is 60% as good as it takes, and it takes 3 times longer, people are going to get around that, unfortunately. So companies that win are going to offer the convenience of consumer AI with enterprise-grade guardrails, data classification, usage logging, PII detection, modeled governance, etc., I think. So there's an opportunity for vendors and startups to fill in that blank to help those companies provide those safer alternatives that actually work.
Yes, thank you, Rod. So a question to all. We are seeing a lot of the automation of jobs. We're seeing a lot of the positions disappearing towards automation. How much of the labor budget do you anticipate companies, these startups, being able to eat into? Is it realistic to be able to capture that and use that as a market, or are startups going to be confined in the coming years as companies reevaluate their position?
For me, I don't know if I think I'm still taking the kind of like the Star Trek vision, utopia. I still believe, just like, 20 years ago, oh my God, it was, I'm digital natives, right? Oh my God, digital is coming, then mobile is coming, then video, programmatic, like there's so many programmatic, now AI. So I'm going to take the positive end of, I think it's still like a labor enhancer, or really I don't know, unlocking humans, I think more. Because I'm sure many of us saw this in the last couple of months where, they were kind of like, okay, we can do everything with AI. And actually now companies are hiring back the critical thinking, the judgment, the looking around the corner, the problem solving, because again, AI is still, for now, is a tool, and method or vehicle or approach. So, for me, it's more an labor amplifier, or again, just, can be smarter. It's less of a anti-utopian approach.
I totally agree. I think it's more about efficiency and productivity, and maybe we all get to work towards a world where, at least people in the United States get to take 3-week vacations because of that potential automation. And I think that all of that comes from the building of, those layered systems so that trust on the outside, on the output is where we are going, right? Because we're still in a place where a lot of what comes on the other side needs so much review and it is inaccurate. And we work towards that for productivity and efficiency. So to like your exact question, I don't think that those budgets are where that type of it should be relied upon specifically, but I think that hopefully it just makes us all a little bit working smarter, not harder.
And even with this crowd, right? Like with all the founders here, what I'm seeing is that my founder friends and my colleagues and peers who, used to, create something, launch it, maybe sell it every, couple of 3 to 5 years. Now they actually are able to found like they're serial founders, right? Like they actually are able to track like multiple product, multiple solutions within literally matter of, months and years. So that's also exciting because again, those are the kind of like the DNA, right? Human kind of brains that we love, and again, that's what kind of gets that innovation and growth going too. So I love that. There's all of you founders gonna be able to kind of again have more ideas come to life.
Can I add to this? This is a great conversation. I was hoping some more numbers would come out, but how much of the labor budget can AI eat into is a question, I think, right? So I'm going to put it at 15 to 25% of knowledge worker labor costs within 3 years of well-run enterprises. It's going to vary by function and by industry. Now, back office, document processing, data entry, first-line support, 40 to 60% would be my guess, automation potential. Strategic roles like sales, relationship management, complex negotiation, creative direction, maybe 5 to 10%. Now, we have one of the companies that's pitching here is targeting, I think, 78% reduction in diligence hours, which it sounds aggressive, but it's focused on the most repetitive, structured parts of the workflow. Now, one of the nuances that sometimes investors miss is that labor reduction doesn't always mean headcount reduction. They're different things. It just means, as Eric was pointing out here, that the same team is doing 2-3 times x 3x the throughput. So that's a better sell, I think, to enterprise buyers because you're not threatening jobs. You're amplifying capacity.
Another common term that's being spelled out in the market is SaaSocalypse, the death of legacy SaaS models and only AI native models existing. Is it actually happening, or we are looking towards integration?
I feel like this is kind of a hard question because I feel like there's opportunity for both avenues to be true. Mm-hmm. There's so many unique applications being thought of every single day in ways that we can't even imagine right now because of the way that these tools are making things possible for us, that I don't know that a full integration world is what we're necessarily moving towards. I'm actually really interested more about what Rod thinks about this because I think that with your, extensive AI knowledge, you might be able to see the future a little bit more than I can, right? A lot of what I see is sort of like what's coming right now, what we're seeing right now. But I guess what I see is a lot of green space for both avenues to be true. Look, when I look at and I think of and I even bang on legacy systems, they are ready for a makeover, right? And some of them are going to break up, some of them are going to retire, and some of them are going to integrate and live on. But I guess I can just see a world where both things are true.
Pearl, what are your thoughts about any operator that works in SaaS and the changes that comes with the industry, navigation points, any suggestions to the operators?
I mean, we actually moved from a seed-based SaaS model to what I'm going to call kind of like a value-based approach. We'd actually increased our almost 10x our contract value. Because the idea was that, again, almost everything, Rod mentioned to some of the finalists that we can be listening to today as well. It's more about that, like, what are you doing? What have you done for me lately, right? Like, what is the ROI? What is the outcome? What is the aggregate amount of success rate that you're bringing the value? It doesn't necessarily, again, does have to be always all the way down to revenue or new sales for a business. But it's, for me, right, is the number of pieces of content created or the performance of the content, or again, like there's ROI calculators, the tools that we put in, AI recommendation engine, that we, implemented with Perplexity. So like that gives that, again, that extra performance, extra edge, something back to the user, again, like in a more performance outcome approach that's still, it doesn't sound like traditional SaaS, because it's not, but it is a SaaS approach. And again, as an operator, you basically are looking at every single day that user value. Again, maybe it's again, growth, performance, eventually revenue. Although attribution model is is still something that escapes us today fully, but like what are you giving back anyway? So like then that's the business model that you can, again, like you're always assessing, operating around. That user obsession, customer obsession just gives that answer what they want out of your solution.
I'm curious to hear everybody's perspective on, we're seeing $100 billion companies now. We may be seeing $1 trillion companies soon. And that's affecting the investor decisions and investor appetites and allocator appetites for the kinds of returns they want to see on startups. How do you see that affecting the allocator decision making, the investor decision making, and how do you see that affecting operators as trying to raise startups in a world where they want you to have a 10,000x multiple?
I think we see it a lot, especially for us, from just our shift from Fund 1 to Fund 2. There was a moment where we were looking for a little bit more bite size, weren't after the unicorn, felt like things could be little bit more nimble, having a smaller TAM, and that we could still see, sort of like potential for return. I think that because of the shifting landscape and the ability to build so quickly, so fast, and to like create these, like we've said a couple times now, these really deeply sticky vertical products, the desire to see a large possibility of return, the appetite is wet for it, I will just say, especially from my current principal. So I can only speak for like how we specifically allocate, but some of those smaller, more bite-sized things are becoming less appetizing and looking towards those bigger players for what what we're after. Though I guess I would say that personally, I think that kind of ties right back into that IPO versus acquisition conversation. There is plenty of room in the ball game for all of the players, right? So there are going to be plenty of people that desire to allocate, angels, family offices towards those smaller markets because they have a high potential for those acquisitions, and they're going to be just as valuable. So it really just depends on the thesis. It depends on what people are after, and that's gonna change with the wind, like it always does. But I do think that right now there's a bit of stars in the eyes, looking after some of these bigger, higher multiples.
Question though, Amy, I don't know. From what I'm observing though, I'm seeing investors are kind of done funding narratives. They're wanting proof, and
Yes.
even earlier, right? So even at pre-seed, you need paying design partners, not letters of intent or anything like that. And but even at seed, you need repeatable sales motion. Stuff that usually would come later are now expected earlier. Is that right?
That's definitely true. Yeah. Asking a lot more validation in the early days, asking to ship a lot more quickly. And then I think with that, we're also seeing, at least from my point of view, we're seeing much higher valuations with little validation. So I feel like both things are sort of happening at the same time, which is, I think, because people believe that they can get there so quickly. But yes, the desire to see proof in the pudding much faster, even at pre-seed valuations, is something that is definitely emerging in the landscape right now.
The one thing I would add to that is from a governance perspective, if you're selling AI into regulated industries, healthcare, financial services, and if you can't articulate your data governance, your model risk, your compliance posture, sophisticated buyers are just going to walk.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a Series B problem anymore. It's almost a seed stage table stakes, or will become one very quickly.
Yeah, it feels like conception. I think that goes back to what we've been talking about in this our durability conversation, right? It starts with the build. It starts with that you are in charge of that data, that you are building on top of that data, that you are control of that. That's your mode, that's your product, right? Where that goes has infinite possibilities, but if you have to build it in that sophisticated, mature, and like you said, are based around compliance. I think even if you're not selling into government systems right out the gate, people want to know that you are building safely and solidly so that you can keep iterating on that model. So yeah, we're looking for a lot more. So, and I think that kind of comes back to it's really great that we're in this anyone can ship a product and that vibe coding is a part of our vocabulary, our ecosystem. But what it really is for people that are at that echelon to be able to build and deploy faster, to be able to I like to think a bit about in a way of like artists, right? We're just going to get a lot more great albums from great artists, right? You're not going to take so long to get that awesome season two. We're going to get it more quickly because we can make it more quickly. So we're going to ask for more validation and more proof more quickly because we can now. And say the same, like you said, some of those things we might be asking in Series B, we're just asking for earlier. And I think that it's fair.
Well, thank you so much for such an engaging and thought-provoking conversation. We will be moving on to presenting our sponsor for this event, Ramp.
Thank you so much for having me, 1752 team and everyone else. Awesome. My name is Aditya Iyengar. I'm one of the startup leads here at Ramp, actually. So for those of you who aren't familiar, we're an all-in-one finance automation platform. We partnered with 1752 to offer our platform and services. Have a few slides. I won't spend too much time on it, but I'll just throw that up here. And if anyone has questions after, you can feel free to reach out to me at my name, first.last@ramp.com. Tysa and Lucas and Co can also just share my credentials after as well. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Ramp, again, we're a financial operations platform. We are fortunate to work with companies across the stack from 2 people in a garage working on their next startup all the way to large enterprises like Anduril, an emergent defense prime, Stripe, which powers the GDP of the internet, Glossier, a consumer brand many of you are probably familiar with, all the way up to consumer brands and household names like Barry's as well. Our tagline is time is money. Let's save both, built on the idea that we can save businesses both bottom line margin, but also return time at the end of the month with arduous month-end close processes. So where are we today? We started in 2019. We have amassed over 50,000 customers at this point, ranging that whole span. But we are most proud of the fact that we actually save customers over $10 billion and 27 million man hours at the end of the day through these month-end close processes cycles. The $10 billion figure comes from flagging things that are out of policy and spend, voiding things that we deem to be fraudulent. And so you can think of us as this intelligent corporate card and spend management solution. Many of you are probably familiar, if you've worked in enterprises before, with the old way on the left side here. So you might have some HR system that you're familiar with, probably Workday or something like that if you worked at a big company. You might have been saddled with a corporate Amex or a Capital One card. You might have even used an expense software like a Concur, or if you went smaller stage, Expensify. Ultimately, many of you probably didn't deal with the actual coding and moving that out to QuickBooks or Sage Intacct or NetSuite. But now as startup founders and business owners, you do. And then last but not least, you have this disparate accounts payable solution. So you have 4 or 5 different tools that are kind of not playing nice with each other and loosely tied together. Ramp is designed to really consolidate and fix this stack into one. We don't do the HR and we don't do the accounting platform, but everything in the middle here across these 6 modules, and now including a new module, budgets, is something that we do. So we issue the corporate card, runs on the Visa network. We have intelligent spend management software that works in tandem with this card. A very powerful bill pay solution designed to replace the likes of Bill.com or Coupa. A travel solution so your team can set the right policies and book travel from within the application itself across flights, hotels, and cars. A procurement solution that's geared a little bit more towards our mid-market to enterprise clients. And last but not least, something very relevant to you all, I think, would be the treasury solution. So think of it as an operating account where you can actually have an account number, routing number, and you can make your funds grow. So our operating account today differs from a lot of competitors. You can earn yield on just the checking account itself, which sits at about 2% today. There's a managed sort of portfolio and a money market fund as well that can help you earn even higher yields. The nice thing about us relative to other players, we don't take a cut on these today. And so you're getting the full pass-through of gains, which I think is a really unique and great experience. Ramp for startups, though. What does this actually confer you? Why is this important? We're building this program to give startups the tools that they need to succeed. So this is across deal and expert networks, across our internal talent network, a lot of folks here in just the venture partner ecosystem more broadly. We have tons of startups on the platform across folks like Perplexity, Cognition, Notion is a recent customer. And so there's lots of really great startups that we partner with for offers as well. So that falls in this third category here around the Founder AI Toolkit. You can get access to some of these AI first perks if you're on the Ramp platform, but we also power the stack across AWS, compute, and plenty more that you can access through the Ramp rewards interface on the platform. It also helps you with expedited underwriting and white glove onboarding. We've partnered with 1752 so that we can enable you all to get up and running on Ramp a lot faster. So should you have questions, should you get blocked, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll make it my mission to try and help you get access to the platform as fast as possible. Last but not least, I know people are distributed everywhere. We love in-person events. Our headquarters is in New York City in Flatiron. We do a lot of events in our office space. So if you ever happen to be in New York, let me know and we can sign you up for some of the events we do. We also do online webinars geared a little bit more towards our finance audience, but nonetheless available to all. And then we'll have events out in San Francisco, hopefully some down in LA as well, and then in Miami, where our third headquarters is.
And without further ado, we will be moving into the pitch competition component, what a lot of people in the chat are excited for. So the structure of this pitch competition, we will have 4 different startups pitching. Each startup will have 10 minutes to present. They'll be presenting from 5 to 7 minutes with a 3 to 5 minute question and answer from the judges. Judges will submit their scores for each startup based on a rubric that we've pre-designed for the competition, and then we'll come up with the winner based on whoever has the highest score. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Wise AI to the stage.
Hi, my name is Ananya. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Wise AI. We're building camera-based health scans for virtual care. I started my career as a medical social worker in India. During this time, I noticed how mainstream virtual care had become. Health consultations had become very accessible. Anyone, anywhere in the world could just whip up their smartphones and hop on video calls with the doctors. But health monitoring tools were simply not as accessible. They hadn't caught up. Vitals monitoring is currently missing in virtual care, something that's very basic in in-person visits. Devices are expensive and usage is low. This leads to clinical deterioration and also lost revenue. There's a 40% attrition rate for RPM devices in less than a year, and more than half the patients who need it don't have access. And low engagement doesn't meet RPM billing requirements, and it's directly linked to 30-day readmissions and ER visits. How does telehealth currently solve for vitals today? They do nothing. They rely on patient-owned devices or guesswork. In best case scenario, they buy expensive devices and ship it to patients' homes. But what if instead, patients already own these devices, or every video visit could extract vitals? That's Wise AI for you. We convert any ordinary camera into a clinical-grade health monitoring tool. A 60-second face scan, whether that's on smartphone, laptop, tablet, or even Zoom, could measure heart rate, breathing rate, blood pressure, hemoglobin, stress, and even emotional cues. Without any wearables, no hardware, or no workflow change. Here's a quick demo. Hello, everyone. We're doing a quick demo of our Zoom app. I have the doctor's account and I have the Zoom app open. Matt is a patient in a telehealth environment, and all I have to do is open my app, click on the drop-down, select who's going to get their vitals scanned, and check vitals. And it's really all it takes. There is no app that the patient has to download. Only the clinician has this app. And all the patient has to do is show up to the virtual visit as they normally would. And throughout this whole time, we're sending automated text messages on Zoom chat to keep the patient engaged. And it only takes 60 seconds to scan these vitals inside telehealth visits. We're making these telehealth visits as data rich as in-person visits. Great. The scan is almost done, and we'll have Matt's vitals any moment now. And that's really all it takes. The core technology behind this is called remote photoplethysmography. The camera is able to detect subtle changes in skin color. The AI reconstructs blood flow waveform from pixel changes, and we're able to arrive at all these health metrics that I just mentioned. We employ a hybrid approach using physics models and also dataset-driven model, specifically for telehealth, designing for robustness, real-world lighting, and also diverse skin tones. And everything's on edge, which means we don't save any data. We're hyper-focused on telehealth with a defensible wedge in remote vital signs monitoring. It's an $8.5 billion industry with a 28% CAGR. For more context, there are over 200 million telehealth sessions happening in the US every year. WiseAI is currently the only company building solely for telehealth environments, while other competitors are focused on wellness and underwriting for insurance. We're building for where care already happens. Almost all of telehealth happens on Zoom, and these models run passively in the background and don't require any patient education. We're meeting the patients where they already are. Our go-to-market and pricing is twofold. For telehealth, it's pay per session, and for home care model, it's a base fee for unlimited scans throughout the year. Matt and I met as Harvard grad students, cross-registering for a course at MIT Media Lab called AI Venture Studio. I have medical social work experience, built and scaled nonprofit startups in the past. I also worked in founding teams of deep tech startups, building and scaling those teams. The last one was a Y Combinator-backed fintech firm based in Singapore. Matt has over 7 years of experience in healthcare, AI medtech expansion to new markets, especially America, and health transactions at Bain & Company. He's also a health management grad at Harvard. Krish is an AI medical imaging expert. He's led AI implementation for Fortune 500 clients. He's a vetted consultant for UNDP, and he started building RPPG, the core technology behind this, in 2013. Madhava is a practicing physician. He's our Chief Medical Officer. He is advising us on ethical and clinically relevant data collection protocols at scale. We're advised by a team of experts from the Harvard MIT ecosystem and also computer vision experts from NVIDIA, and most importantly, also from Zoom. Richard Dodenbush is the guy that introduced Zoom to healthcare. We have multiple partners in academia and also industry. We're part of NVIDIA Inception program. We have signed paid early contracts with Experience Senior Living, Curanostics, and LiverRight, positioned to serve around 60,000 people overall. And we have multiple adopters in the pipeline as well. We have raised $245,000 in funding from Dan Capital and C's investment so far. Our customers love us so much that everybody we have in the pipeline is through referral. We are positioned to reach $200,000 in ARR in the next 6 months after our pre-seed round, and this is a screenshot from our current pipeline. We are raising $1.5 million pre-seed at $8 million post-money valuation, mainly to unlock revenue in our current pipeline, collect 1.2 million data sets from 10,000 subjects, have our entire IP in-house, improve accuracy of our blood pressure and hemoglobin models, which is going to 5x our revenue, and also hire a regulatory expert to look into reimbursements. Help us unlock accessible health monitoring for 4.8 billion people who have access to telehealth visits in the world. Contact us at this email or just scan the QR code to join our wait list. You can also do your own scan by going to wiseai.care and signing up. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. We're going to move right into the Q&A where we got about 3 minutes for that. So I will turn it over to the judges.
Hi, Ananya. That was an excellent presentation. Really well done. What an exciting product and thing that you're problem that you're trying to solve. I'm really curious about the trials that you have done so far. How many have you done? I believe that that deck said that this raise is going to go towards 10,000 new trials. So what have you done so far, and what is the accuracy and success rate of the modeling so far?
Right. So we have built our own proprietary models for heart rate, breathing rate, oxygen saturation, BP, as well as hemoglobin. And this is a snapshot of our test results so far. That being said, we're currently using FDA cleared models from another partner. That's because we don't want to wait until we have our own tech in-house, especially one that is FDA cleared. We have started to acquire customers, but we're building our own proprietary data sets, especially for blood pressure. So with heart rate and breathing rate models, FDA has cleared it for the first time last year. But the market doesn't just want heart rate and breathing rate. There's only so much we could do with it. Blood pressure is the most important thing for us to work on, and everybody is just starting to build in that space.
What's the clinical validation timeline for your proprietary models, and how do you manage the liability gap in the meantime?
Based on how this technology is trained, we have the physics-induced model and the dataset model. So this result is just based on our physics-induced models. And like I mentioned, we're specifically building for telehealth, which means we have people who are just video calling from their car seats or from their office spaces and different environments. So these models that you see reflect our physics-induced model. And the timeline for acquiring the data sets, the 1.2 million data sets from 10,000 subjects that I mentioned, is in the next 6 months. And we are very confident that once we have those data sets, we will drastically improve the accuracy. Even with the physics-induced model, we've achieved decent accuracy. As you can see here, it's like 4 or 5 beats per minute error rate margins for each of these models. And yeah, so the timeline, to answer your question, is the next 6 months.
All right. Thank you very much to Wise AI. We've run up against time, so we're going to introduce the second pitch.
So my name is Victoria Bills, and I'm the CEO of Allocraft AI. Institutional investors are the guardians of wealth for millions of Americans. They run your 401k plans, grow your endowments, and fund foundations. And every time they make an investment, they have a legal obligation to document and justify that decision. So imagine spending over 480 hours and over $200,000 in consulting fees to justify a single investment, only to end up in front of the Supreme Court like Intel did, because you can't reconstruct why you made an investment during that time. That's not just inefficiency, that is a fiduciary liability. And so we created Allocraft AI as an AI native platform specifically designed to help institutional allocators. We automate up to 78% of that due diligence lifecycle, slashing those 480 hours down to approximately 120 and saving them approximately $20,000 at minimum per fund in labor costs alone. But our real value isn't just our speed, it's the permanent institutional memory that we provide. Essentially, a living, searchable decision system that protects your team when a regulator asks about a decision that you made years ago. So here's how it works. We start by first codifying your investment mandate down to the very metric, from strategy, sector, geography, performance, and fees. We call this your mandate blueprint. Allocraft then can score every single fund that you see against that blueprint and surfaces opportunities you otherwise had not the time to diligence manually, and giving you a defensible record for why you invested or you passed. That discovery alone widens the aperture for alpha in a way that manual processes never could. Second, unlike static data rooms that go stale the moment a deal closes, Allocraft continuously pulls from SEC, Edgar, and ADV filings, turning your diligence into a living, always current intelligence layer. So your team isn't just making a point-in-time decision, you're staying informed as information comes to market. And so that is why we're able to provide mandate-aligned, data-ready, pass or fund decisions and timestamped searchable audit shield, protecting that sovereign layer for allocator teams. And timing, I would say, cannot be more crucial than now. We are at a unique inflection point as alternative investment assets are exploding to over 24 trillion, meaning that more funds that analysts are missing. And as that market expansion is also being backed by new Department of Labor rules that allows alternatives to be in retirement plans, meaning that now more than ever, it is important to have that scrutiny and that defensible rationale for every investment. And so to combat this, many firms are attempting to build AI agents in-house. But these DIY efforts only create technical debt and echo chambers that reinforce internal bias. Allocators need a purpose-built second opinion that institutionalizes that knowledge and removes the manual grind. And so we are targeting the allocator due diligence market, which we're estimating to be about 62 billion. Our serviceable software market includes RIAs, family offices, and foundations, bringing that to about 4.5 billion. And our beachhead we're targeting, which is 1,000 institutional allocators over the next 3 years, represents a approximate $60 million opportunity. But that opportunity is very much validated by our own research and backed by not only just 100 allocator interviews that we've conducted, but design partnerships with a $1.5 billion RIA and a multi-asset manager. And more importantly, we are on track to close $261,000 in new ARR, or approximately $225K in an enterprise agreement with a Fortune 200 plan sponsor. But I would say, honestly, our team is built by allocators for allocators. I myself used to sit in the seat at a multi-billion-dollar fund of fund as an allocator, and my two co-founders include Alberto Rincon, who is a Harvard MIT trained software engineer and business strategist, and Stephen Scott, who is a former Google AI architect. And we are advised by industry titans such as John Rogers of Ariel Investments. And so the opportunity today is that we are raising $1 million at a 5 million cap to give us approximately 18 months of runway. This would help us to fuel our SOC 2 certification, scale our enterprise deployments, and basically help us to achieve cash flow positivity by mid-2026. And so every day, institutional teams are making trillion-dollar decisions with spreadsheets and tribal knowledge. Allocraft gives them the mandate blueprint to know exactly what they're looking for, the living intelligence to stay current, and the shield to defend every decision. So that way, when someone comes around and asks, why did you invest in that fund? The answer is simply one click away. So help us make the institutional allocator universe to decide faster, allocate smarter, and protect their legacy. Thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Victoria. We can have questions.
Two quick questions. One is defensibility. OpenAI, Gemini, vertical tech players, they're all moving towards document intelligence. And so what is it about your allocator-specific workflows that can't be replicated by one of them? And the second is the part-time folks. What gives you confidence that the CEO and CPO will go full-time?
Great questions. So 3 major defenses around I would say, our moats that are very difficult to replicate. First is that each of our clients essentially codify their investment mandates, and that becomes a part of their institutional DNA. So it's very hard for that to be transferred to other platform layers and so it makes it a little bit more sticky. The second, I would say, is our living data layer that compounds that value over time. So essentially, the more you use it, and what we mean by that is that we will be helping them to implement meeting notes, documents that come from not only just regulatory filings, but also conversations that they have with the AI chatbot that essentially also helps us to extract some of those more latent signals over time. Because as some of you are probably aware, some investment decisions don't just come from information in a pitch deck. It comes from the fact that there were hints that were in meeting notes, a joke between 2 MDs, or a passing remark about risk. And so being able to comb those underlying layers of data while protecting proprietary information helps us to create better workflows and better decisions over time.
Very well done. One question, just to clarify, is this a tool to capture all of the rationale that went into a particular decision? You talked about alpha. Is there a component of this that would include data flows from the universe of other funds as a way to identify maybe a more attractive opportunity based upon here's what that mandate is?
So right now, the way that we operate is solely off of inflows from the institutional allocators themselves. We do see that there's an opportunity down the road to create a potential marketplace that provides alignment scoring based off of fund data. But right now, what our focus is helping them to find alignment in those funds that they already have in their pipeline. So typically, again, it takes about 6 months to diligence a fund on average. So that means that there's at least 100 funds that are typically sitting in someone's inbox on the team. And those are funds that essentially go neglected or underfunded. And so we want to help expose those opportunities by giving them the ability to see if there is alignment with those investment mandates that they have. So rather than spending that time diligencing the decks manually, they can put that into our system, and therefore that becomes their, so to speak, is like living marketplace of every single fund that they've ever seen, even if it was a fund that they decided not to invest in.
I have a question on your customer and go-to-market. How many current customers are active and paying in the pipeline or on platform?
Yes, that's a great question. So we currently work with 3 design partners, and we actually gave them the platform for free. So that way we could basically get market feedback directly. But we currently have within our pipeline, and actually we're set to close perhaps within the next couple of weeks, our first enterprise agreement, which we priced it again on a value-based contract, $225K. So we're very excited about that opportunity and to hopefully be revenue positive very soon.
What are your operating margins right now?
So our operating margins right now, so my 2 co-founders and myself are, and also I apologize about, I realized I did not answer the other half of your question. We are all essentially working on this full time, and we're very dedicated to what we're doing. But essentially myself and my CPO, Alberto Rincon, are essentially working on this without any pay at this time. But we do believe, so that keeps our margins very low. But again, we build and scale very effectively. And we're very dedicated to the cause, which is why we're willing to, again, take that pay cut in the short term in order to build this and bring this to market.
All right. Thank you so much. We're beyond 10 minutes.
We are now moving on to Tero AI.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. My name is Chris. I'm the founder and CEO of Tero AI. We're the world's first geospatial data company built for everyone. Now, what we mean by that is we take patented methods and technology, create new data insights and new use cases for geographic data that otherwise didn't exist, bringing into the fold new users of geographic data and opening up new opportunities for it. So the problem that we're basically trying to address is that right now you essentially need a PhD or very extensive training in order to do anything with GIS. Data platforms are extremely complex and specialized. The data themselves are extremely messy, and that leads to LLMs being really bad at processing geographic data. So there's a gap between what LLMs are enabling and what geospatial data actually offer. We're trying to close that gap. And so if you take something as an example, like a clear knowable question, like how many manufacturing jobs are in a particular congressional district, with our system, you'll get the correct response in a matter of seconds, and you can validate that instantly within it. You ask a general purpose LLM, and if you're lucky, they'll give you a non-response or a citation to, a report from 10 years ago. We're able to do that through our unique approach to processing geographic data. We're moving out of the traditional way of handling GIS information, GIS systems. That enables us to integrate at-scale data from across publishers, different data sets, and taxonomies. That in turn allows for the training of LLMs, which opens up the markets outside of traditional GIS applications like engineering, urban planning, into new use cases like journalism, residential real estate search, and others. Now, what's cool about this, GIS or geospatial as an industry is a sneaky huge market, right? It's $700 billion globally. The TAM for our specific customer segments that we're targeting is $183 billion globally, with $85 billion in the United States. That's 8.2 million target customers across 27 segments. And that's estimating just an average of $8,000 on an annual contract, which we think is very reasonable in this space. We plan to approach this with 2 main product lines. So we have our Tero Atlas data system. This is B2B. This is our core infrastructure data repository, the overarching system. Now, we offer that interface in two different ways. We have a backend SDK with API access, and then also a front-end, clean, intuitive, kind of fun chat system that individuals can use, serving two kind of client profiles, both of which are offered through an annual subscription basis. It also serves as the underlying tech for our Tero Compass licensing. This has a variety of B2B2C applications in retail, social media, residential real estate, and more. In that case, we're looking to offer them through traditional licensing fees. Now, our strategy here is very much a land and expand approach. On the previous slide, we mentioned a beachhead market. We're planning to move in this half into the DC Congressional District Intelligence ecosystem. So it's a $1 billion annual market, 150,000 potential customers. We're moving from what has been purely kind of inbound work as we've been focused on building out into direct sales. We have a couple of partnerships currently active, some additional ones in the pipeline. We want to get our brand out there, build up our reputation. From there, we want to expand in that market, upsell our current clients once we land them. And really, we're timing this around the midterm elections this year and then the presidential election in 2028. From there, we're going to strategically and methodically expand into larger, more lucrative markets. First up, we have planned for advertising data, an advertising data system for digital advertising platforms, ad tech firms, and others. There, we hope to launch with a major co-development client that we're in negotiation with right now. And that would be in medium term. In terms of traction, I mentioned we've only been doing inbound so far. But really, we've been getting a lot of interest. It's been really cool, actually, the last several months. We just incorporated back in mid-September. We have a nice pipeline of warm leads, 20 to 25 right now. We've had 6 proposals requested. We just got another request in earlier today. We're planning to start moving into outbound efforts, hard sales in the DC market, strategic comms, some reputational work, and leverage our existing partnerships to really build out brand awareness, start doing sales, and starting to dominate this market. And from an overarching competitive landscape, what we're trying to differentiate from in the current GIS world is highly specialized applications and highly complex applications. What that means is a lot of the other GIS players, even newer startups, they're still doing the traditional things, right? The mining infrastructure mapping, the remote sensing. All of that's cool and it's very lucrative, but it doesn't open up the market. What we do is we come in and we're essentially going to be competing with economic consultancies like NERA, offering at a fraction of the cost, the same data, the same information, actually better data because we have unique information and insights that they don't have, and is significantly faster turnaround. We're able to do this through 2 main competitive advantages. One, we have a truly differentiated product. It's dynamic, unique data. It's scaled, right? Allows for scaled querying across publishers and taxonomies, and it's memory efficient, which is huge in GIS. That allows us to get to market first, deploy rapidly because we have out-of-box products. We're not doing customization from client to client. That leads directly into a feedback loop where we can improve our training, improve our UX experience, and ultimately up good operational ROI, particularly in data refinement, modeling refinement. In terms of metrics, we see pretty modest CAC, pretty good lucrative LTV. But the thing I want to point out here in particular is that we're projecting to be at operational sustainability at just about 100 subscriptions, which we think is very much doable within our kind of projected timeframe of funding and operational runway. In terms of our team, we have a rare set of expertise, 7 decades of combined experience. This idea came from my PhD work at University of Cambridge back in 2013. I spent 10 years in big tech doing this type of research and also AI research. I've published in this space in spatial economic methods, other areas. So we really have frontier knowledge there, as well as in AI, LLM training, GIS systems development, and more. What we're looking for is a $2 million raise with a $10 million valuation. We've only been working on inbound. Again, we've really been heads down in terms of building. We've closed 25% of that already. And we're looking to put that towards team build out and primarily growth efforts over the next few months. With that, I'll stop. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to the questions.
Thank you so much, Chris. I will turn it over to the judges for some Q&A.
Extremely impressive. Really well done, Chris. How long have you been building this? And since you started that build, what security guardrails have you put in place to make sure that the information that you are putting out there is in fact the source of truth? Because to me, it seems as though that's the aim here, is that your proprietary system is indeed the source of proof for this geospatial data. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the idea was 2013. I left it for 10 years after trying because I couldn't figure out the technical breakthrough element of it. Figured that out in 2023, actually while on vacation, and going back to the chat earlier. Use that to code up a proof of concept that summer, and then use that to file for US patent. So we have the US utility patent granted. We filed in Europe. We're filing in China, India, South Korea, and Australia right now. We have priority rights in those markets as well as other PCT markets through the spring. That is one element of it. The other element of it is this is really non-trivial method that goes into the processing of geographic data. You have to change your mindset in terms of how you use GIS, right? A traditional engineer will use shape files. They'll use large-scale distributed computing with cloud systems in order to do a lot of spatial joins. That's really time-intensive and expensive. It'll crash your system if you try to do it at home. We take all of that out. So what we have is very memory efficient. It's very fast. That gives us an additional leg up. So we have the proprietary method plus this new approach to how you process the data. That is not a obvious way of handling it.
Yeah. So clearly, your patent moat is strong. Earlier, we talked about a horizontal versus a vertical approach. You have a horizontal solution, and your beachhead is trying to find your first vertical. But that takes time. I've been there. So you have no dedicated sales function. How are you going to sequence the build outs? Do you hire your commercial first or product first? And what happens in the fundraising takes more than X number of months of runway, 7 months.
Yeah, for sure. So with what we've closed right now, we have an 18-month runway with our current operating model. So that's with the team part-time working hours. Now we want to speed that up, increase capacity so we can move faster. Our first product is done. We're planning to launch that April 1 is like kind of our soft target for the actual launch. That we could roll that out tomorrow, but we want to set up pre-sales wait lists, build up some interest with it. We're using strategic events to help with that go-to-market. So we're sponsoring a couple of kind of insider series conferences and events in the next couple of months. We've got some academic papers out for consideration for some conferences, webinars planned, a couple of other events that will help build our reputation and knowledge within DC. And we think that will be all of those will have high ROI in terms of our sales efforts. In addition, we should be able to bring on our first dedicated salesperson to focus in that particular market because it is very, very idiosyncratic.
Thank you very much, Chris. We're going to move on to the last presentation of the day, which is going to be UBiosis Health.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Arvelos. I'm actually a 4-time serial medtech entrepreneur with 1 exit, 1 unicorn, 1 YC-backed company, and 1 as a spin-out of an entrepreneur in residency I did at a major pharmaceutical company that has now become UBiosis Health. And at UBiosis, what we're doing is we're building AI nurses that can proactively manage patients on their own in between visits to your physician, delivering continuous care designed to directly improve outcomes in patients while generating new revenues for our physician customers. And the fundamental problem that we're addressing is there currently is a 200 physician shortage in healthcare today in the United States. And that ultimately means that doctors can only really manage their patients during brief 7 to 15-minute visits in their short, brief visits throughout the year. But the problem is that most conditions are deteriorating silently at home during the 99% of time that patients spend outside of the traditional care setting. And this is what builds up to a $1.3 trillion in total preventable medical and administrative costs. Because the fundamental issue is that these silent deteriorations that are happening are cascading into preventable crises where patients are suffering needlessly, doctors are burning out fighting these fires, and payers are ultimately funding for all these disasters. For example, in gastroenterology, which has the largest care capacity shortage across of all of medicine today, in their highly chronic patients with a condition called inflammatory bowel disease, where we have drugs for these patients, but just no one has the time to check, is the patient actually responding to them? And so the net result for patients is over half of them require disabling surgery to have their bowels removed. And because of the high cost of these drugs, the average cost to get a patient finally to remission is around $700,000, which is insane. But what's even worse is 85% of that cost is just set on fire and wasted because it's not actually helping get the patient better. And all these crises ended up being a major source of burnout for the physicians and their staff due to the additional patient calls and trying to people figure out what's going on, a lot of no-shows. And this is the sad thing, is this is one clinical use case, and there are hundreds of examples of this all across healthcare. And that is why I'm excited to introduce you all to Ubi. So our AI nurse that we're building to help close this gap that we see as the first autonomous AI nurse capable of managing care between visits to your physician. And critically, Ubi is not just another episodic AI tool that physicians use inside of their EMR. She is a new operational layer that continuously executes care under your local physician's supervision. And that key thing is that she's able to perform guideline-directed care under their physician's supervision in a way that they're able to dictate the care path that UB performs, but still ultimately under their supervision. The key thing about this is it allows for personalization at scale than not ever before possible, as every patient gets their own specific AI nurse specific to their own specific clinical use case, ultimately allowing us to provide more proactive care to produce the outcomes in these patients. The way we've designed Ubi is that our systems can bolt on to any practice to directly enhance their patient care without interrupting anything about their day-to-day operations. Patients simply enroll into our program and then just speak with Ubi casually with normal conversations over time, either asking them about nutritional questions, symptom challenges, and our intelligence engine is able to track this over time. And keyly, they're able to use high emotional quality voice conversations paired with her high intelligence because she has full read-write access to the physician's EMR file, meaning she has a full understanding of that patient's case. She then has the ability to order and review lab results from these patients and build a complete picture of how that patient is really responding to the medication over time in conjunction with our own internal clinical staff. This allows us to identify patients aren't responding to their medications anymore and more proactively escalate them. And in our first clinical indication targeting patients with inflammatory bowel disease, this is able to improve their remission rates by a factor of 5, lowering the average cost of remission of these patients by $500,000, while also lowering their hospitalization rates by about a factor of 81%. And because of how we structured it, it's covered by patients' insurance. And so that the more that patients interact with Ubi, the more data that we generate and the more revenue that we generate for our physician customers, which is a tune of around $3,500 per patient per year. But with the way we split it, UBiosis takes home $2,500 and our physician customers taking home the net new $1,000 per patient per year. But because of how we're embedded to improve outcomes for all stakeholders, long-term we're envisioning value-based care contracts with payers and real-world data share contracts with pharma and other major medical device players as we help them prove out the efficacy of their drugs, allowing them to get greater coverage and ultimately in helping patients get easier access to the drugs that they really need. That we see is that we scale that all together at our biggest scale. When we fully grow up, we're looking at over $8,500 per patient per year in potential value that we're generating with our new model. And what we see as a critical junction of why now is there's a ton of new investment going on in the healthcare AI space, but where a lot of tools are either taking patients away from the local physician or they're not really integrated into the actual care of their doctor. We combine the ability to both be integrated directly into your local physician, helping improve their business while also being able to longitudinally manage these patients in a way that wouldn't be before possible. Our go-to-market strategy is we target private practices through our key opinion leader network and pharma ties that allow us to get access to a large way of different new practices. And by stacking all these new revenue streams up, we only need to get over 20 practices in the United States to be over $100 million in ARR. We are already launched with the first early development partners, already generating revenues, and importantly, have already validated that the insurance companies are paying for our services, and just signed a massive new enterprise customer that all in is worth about $70 million in ARR. It's going to take a long time to fulfill that, but that's partly why we're raising our seed with a healthy mid-market and long-term pipeline in the runs. So ultimately, GI provides a large differentiated entry point for us, but our platform technology is scalable across all of medicine in a way that we see we could have a version of UB for patients with cardiovascular issues, urological issues, but the ultimate end game is that be able to prove the safety and efficacy of our nurses to be able to practice alone that we see builds up to a $2 trillion new market opportunity. Our team has over 60 years of experience in bringing new novel AI healthcare products to market, including myself, who's a 4-time founder, Chris, who's a 2X digital health founder, is our chief technology advisor, and our secret weapon, Dr. Vijay Yajit, who is the head of GI across all of Takeda and can casually get us meetings with the head of the American Gastroenterology Association. We're raising our first institutional round, and we'd love for y'all to be investors into us so that together we can tell our patients with UBiosis, now you're back into symbiosis with your care. Happy to answer any questions y'all have.
One question I have, obviously, there's 2 sales that need to happen, both for the physician and then for the end client. I'd be curious, what is that percentage success rate for the physicians you have partnered with for their underlying client base to adopt this?
So it's about 45%, and when they are doing it themselves to like sell UB to one of their patients. The thing that we've started to do recently is we actually have taught UB how to do outreach to the specific patients at their practice to sell herself to those patients to help with that kind of dual sale level that you mentioned.
Can you elaborate on that? The AI nurse is selling herself to the end customer. Is that what you mean?
So when we partner with the physicians, they give us a list of here are all the eligible patients that we want to enroll. So partly when those patients come in, they're saying, hey, you should try this new program. We think it's great for you. But we also have access to those roles. And so we've taught UB to call a patient, say, hey, my name's UB. I know it's a little weird that I'm in AI, but it's actually really good for you. And allows us to enroll these patients at scale. It's sort of like our own AI sales development rep, but it's for our own use case. And it's the same, it remembers the patients. And so when you boot her up, she remembers the conversations you had during the recruitment piece of it.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. First of all, I love the fact that this is not just a better, faster nurse, but you're opening up a new category of in-between visits, creating a category. So I love that aspect of it. The whole supervision thing, human in the loop supervision, I have a zillion questions. How does that work? What guardrails are there? Can you, when things go wrong, how do you know, and stuff like that. But my question is about the revenue model. Your revenue model, it depends on insurance reimbursements via existing CPT codes, right?
Yes.
So how confident are you that payers are going to sustain reimbursements for AI-delivered nursing services as they scale? Or have you had direct conversations with payers about this?
Yeah. So one of the nice thing about doing the entrepreneur residency at Takeda is I was able to validate this concept with high-level VPs at several of major payers. One of the things that they really love about this in particular is they are losing massive amounts of money because of this biological spend. It is a huge issue for them. And even one of our competitors in this space, who's kind of a digital health company that does value-based care, we're in the talks of potentially licensing our tech to them because it directly helps with this unnecessary drug spend. And so we've talked to them directly that this is something that they're very interested in funding. But our long-term goal is to prove it out so that we can get paid what we're actually worth with these more larger value-based care contracts.
And your pricing is based on outcomes.
It's based off outcomes. So if a patient does a task, there's a reimbursement tied to that. And so the outcome is doing a compliant task that leads to revenue for the physician. Long term, when we have value-based care, it's tied directly to remission. So we're super underpricing ourselves right now.
All right. Thanks, Alex. We're running right up on time. Thank you very much for your presentation. We're going to give the judges just a couple minutes just to submit their scores for each company, and then we'll come back shortly with a winner. All right. Mohammed, would you like to announce the winner?
Let's go with the second place first and then announce the winner. The second position goes to UBiosis Health, and many congratulations to them. First place goes to Tero AI, and many congratulations to Chris.
Woo! And thank you so much to all of our participants. Bunch of incredible presentations. We're really fortunate to have you all come and join us here today during this pitch competition. We want to thank everybody in the audience for taking the time to come and listen to this panel discussion and watch all these founders come and share what they've built so far, and much more to come for all of them. We can all imagine. Again, thank you to our panelists. It's been a privilege to have you guys here. Everybody, please keep on the lookout for more 1752 events. We will be hosting another pitch competition at some point in the coming months, so keep your eye out for that.
Enjoy. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, everyone. Really great job to all of the pitches. Really excellent. Everyone should feel good.
Fantastic presentations. Thank you. I learned something today.
Me too.
Well done. Take care.